June the 25th, 2022. As you're looking at today's images, and these are from satellites that orbit the Earth, they measure this radiation from the sun. The very center of this is a white and black circle that represents our planet. The white side is the sun-facing side. You're looking at a tremendous distortion in our shields, and for you guys that have watched this channel long enough, you know exactly where I'm going with this. And if you think about it, this extreme heat that we're dealing with, guys, record-breaking heat that started in May, now we're into June and it's even worse, is a couple of months ahead of its time. That's why we have a 60% chance of tropical development in the Atlantic. But look at what went on. Look at the collapse, the bending and breaking. And now, every time that happens, it allows radiation closer to the Earth, even penetrating our atmosphere and scattering onto the surface of the Earth. You see the drought. You see your plants drying up. The sunburn, the large dust clouds around the planet. We just had one over in the Phoenix area. Guys, I'm beginning to think that the major development of CERN was maybe the main thing was the greatest weather manipulator known to man ever. Now, we've seen other things. They've smashed protons together, but they were achieving tremendous energy levels. We talked about like a Stargate, opening a Stargate, things like that. But what I'm seeing with this weather and this running as hot as CERN is, and we're going to look at their current information, that we're seeing this bending and the allowing of radiation into the planet. Yeah, you know, and what they're going to want to do is have carbon credit tax and things like that. Anyway, what it's doing is destroying the crops around the planet right now. And look at these crazy bends at both poles. And when I'm going to show you this from another view from the same group of satellites, and a different perspective altogether, and I'm going to explain what we're dealing with these collapses and how that allows the radiation that should be staying on the outside to penetrate all the way down and fry your garden and all the other things that we're seeing right now. But again, look at this going through today to the last few frames. And right in there, that's how it's supposed to be without the bends at the tip. Right about just like that. And what you'll see is that CERN's power is going up and down. Now, this is the same thing's happening. Much wider view. The Earth is in the center. Sun facing is the right side. This red bow is the radiation that we do not want around our planet. And that's why the magnetopause works with our plasma sphere, which is represented in the green right there in the front of the Earth. Part of that's our protection. But where you have a gap there, and I've got the red arrow in, it's called a cusp. C-U-S-P, cusp. And that, when that opens, radiation pours in, and you're going to see that today. And then I recorded it yesterday. It was worse. But right now outside we are, let me turn my head, down from 109 to 105 real feel. But watch as these cusps open as our shields go down. You'll see right in this area, I'll stop it and we'll look at it. But between the green lines in the top right, you're going to start to see this feed. It's very faint at that point, but it continues for a few hours. Then I'm going to show you from yesterday, and it's even clear. But what happens, that's when, it's again, the cusps are broken, when the shields are weak. We're in grand solar minimum. But when you manipulate the Earth's shields, again, that becomes the greatest manipulator, the greatest weather machine ever known to man. When you can bend the magnetic shields of the planet and you let this radiation in, it's all damage. It's burn it down. But think about what the Bible says about the end times also, not by flood, but by fire. But I can show you, and I've proved for years, and that we're looking at CERN live. Notice your time stamp at the top left today. And what we're seeing is power spikes. The black line is the power. The red and blue lines are the collision of the two beams. And when that happens, that power occurs. Now, it's nearly at 7,000 giga-electron volts. When you got both beams running, you've got about 14,000 tera-electron volts. It's showing it here in GeV, or giga-electron volts. 7,000 is 7 tera-electron volts. Guys, this thing is 100 times stronger. Its magnetic field that it creates, and it's tying into our magnetic shields via the ground currents, is 100,000 times stronger than our shield. So why is CERN still running as expensive as it is? Europe's almost in war. They can't get natural gas. But this machine is running wide open. You know, it was shut down for about 3 years. You're looking at the two beams now, and beam 1 and beam 2, and what you were looking at was them trying to line them up together. Check this out again. This is from today. The peaks that you're seeing correspond with what we were seeing with the collapse in the magnetopause. Now, I want to show you some things from yesterday. Didn't do a video on it. It was late, and I had done this, and we'd done a couple other videos, and I just decided to save it for today. But we're going to go through yesterday, kind of the same thing. You're going to look at the magnetopause. You're going to see some of the distortion starting there. We'll look at CERN. And again, these bends are what's causing this excessive early heat on our planet. What did LBJ say back in the 60s? He who controls the weather controls the world. But here we are. Yesterday, you can see the distortion. Now, we got elevated solar wind, and they're taking advantage of that. When that solar wind hits our shields, it creates a ground current in the northern hemisphere. The Hedman currents, a couple of other ones that run right across CERN, where it's buried below the surface on the Franco-Swiss border. 17-mile machine. It's a big loop. But again, look at the distortion. And it was hot, man. And you remember the video that I did that my weather gauge temporarily spiked at 123? If you don't, look back at that. But also the next few days after that, it spiked at 117. Now look at what CERN was running at yesterday. Notice your timestamp. That was early on the 25th. This is universal time. Full power, both beams lined up. And I have never seen it in all the years that we've watched this be this straight. Everything running at that strong of a power. That's why you were seeing the bending and manipulation yesterday. Also the beams early yesterday showing 25th. But they're trying to match these up. It's like sighting the elevation and windage on a scope. One beam is going one way around the 17-mile loop. The other one's going the other way. The way they get the power is when they match these up. They're going through massive electromagnetic circles. And that magnetism, just like on the old color TV tubes in the day, controls those beams. So they're constantly working on cooling everything with the cryogenics and fine-tuning that beam for the collision. And again, this was early on the 25th, universal time. You can see these spikes, and those correspond if you match the timing on the magnetopause, which is also universal time. You'll see where those spikes are. Now, let's look at this graph from yesterday. Again, the cusp are top, they're probably at, say, 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock on the sun-facing side of the Earth. Energy's coming from the right. We don't want the red radiation penetrating our shields. If left alone, they do a pretty good job. You can see at that power yesterday. Look at the bending in the cusp at 2 o'clock. Look at the penetration of that red radiation getting close to the planet. I've seen it, guys, in the past on extreme peaks penetrate way into that black shield that represents our planet. Check this out. Look at that right there, man. Total penetration yesterday at 16:03 universal time. That's why you're seeing these heat spikes. Even though they're saying it may be 105 or 110, then suddenly we have a small weather station. It peaks. That's why everything's wilting. And all of this is happening, not because of just grand solar minimum, which our shields are naturally weaker, but this is man-made manipulation, and it is causing crop failure, drought around the world, which is going to lead to the black rider, famine. All of the riders it appears to be getting ready to move if they are not already. So again, why are we having now a 60% chance of a hurricane forming in the Atlantic. If the tremendous area of high pressure that's over the Atlantic, and it's very large, if it stays that strong, then it's going to keep that system almost parallel with the equator, which would slam it into Central America. If that high pressure system lets up, and this is just a brief thing showing it yesterday when it went to 60%. That hasn't changed, but the high pressure over that's going to control it. The tropical update will be in the next video, but again, you see 60% chance of development, and it's the tightest modeling I've seen of any storm this far out. Usually they're all over the place, but that will be in another video. We're watching it. You watch it again. We are seeing the man-made effects of the greatest manipulator of the weather on this earth. Space weather is Earth's weather. Again, it's a heads up. Be safe.